After becoming a widow, my daughter gave me a cruel choice: find a job or end up on the street. In desperation, I agreed to care for a paralyzed billionaire. That first night, something happened that left me frozen. Just 3 weeks after Dante's funeral, as his flowers still wilted on the grave, I stood in the kitchen when Harlow walked in, her mind clearly made up. At 42, she carried her father's jawline but not his warmth. "This arrangement isn't working," she said coldly, placing her designer bag down. Still in my black morning dress, I trembled, reaching for the coffee pot. "What arrangement?" I asked. "You living here," she replied, reminding me that everything had been left to her, and she could no longer support me. When the coffee cup shattered on the floor, the brown liquid spreading across the tiles mirrored the collapse of my life. On my knees, I offered to contribute $800 from my Social Security, but Harlow scoffed. "That doesn't even cover utilities." Then she proposed a solution: a job as a private caregiver. "You were a nurse before marrying Daddy," she said, handing me her phone. Though I hadn't practiced in decades, she assured me it wasn't medical, just companionship. She'd already scheduled an interview. When I asked what would happen if I didn't get the job, her eyes said it all. "Then you'll have to find somewhere else to live." The next morning, I stood in front of a sprawling mansion, nervous and heartbroken. A woman named Patricia greeted me and explained the position was for Mr. Hawthorne, who had been paralyzed in an accident 5 years ago. Room and board were included, along with an incredible salary. But Patricia warned me. He had gone through 17 caregivers in 2 years. That didn't ease my nerves. When I met Terrence Hawthorne in his library, he was striking even in a wheelchair, silver hair, piercing blue eyes, and a look of confused recognition. "Have we met before, Mrs. Thompson?" he asked. Though I denied it, something about him stirred a memory. He was studying me like I was a puzzle from his past. When he asked why I wanted the job, I lied. I couldn't tell him I was here out of desperation, that my daughter had turned her back on me. Instead, I said, "I believe in taking care of people." That answer seemed to soften him. After Patricia left us alone, he warned me he wasn't easy to work for. Demanding, particular, but respectful, and the pay was generous. "I need someone I can trust," he said. I looked into his eyes and felt that same flicker of something buried. "Yes, Mr. Hawthorne, I can be that person." When we shook hands, the contact sent a jolt through me. Not just electricity, but something deeper. That night, as Patricia led me to my quarters, larger than my old apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Terrence looked at me like he was seeing a ghost. The first week felt like living in a gilded cage. Terrence was exacting. Coffee at 7:15 sharp, medication on the dot, newspapers in a certain order. But between those sharp commands were quiet moments when I caught him watching me, eyes full of questions. One morning he asked if my name was a family name. "My grandmother's," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. He asked where I'd grown up. "Here and there," I said. It wasn't entirely a lie. We'd moved a lot because of my father's debts. Some memories are better left buried. That afternoon, I unpacked the few things Harlow let me take. At the bottom of a box was something I'd forgotten: my old photo albums. The first was filled with my life with Dante. The second, older one, held a past I rarely revisited. My fingers trembled as I turned the pages. On page 12, the world tilted. There I was, 20 years old, in a yellow sundress I'd sewn myself, laughing beside a young man with dark hair and those unmistakable blue eyes. Terry Hawthorne. Not Terrence. Terry, the boy who loved jazz, chocolate ice cream, and me. We were inseparable once. He'd promised to come back for me after making his fortune. I had waited, but his letters slowed, then stopped. By then Dante had entered my life, steady, kind, safe. I'd married him 6 months before Terry sent word he was returning. The letter was still tucked in the album, his bold handwriting declaring his love and his success. But it came too late. That night, a knock at the door startled me. Patricia said Mr. Hawthorne was agitated and asking for me. When I entered, he looked different, vulnerable. "Have you ever been to Millbrook?" he asked. My breath caught. That was where I grew up, where I met Terry, fell in love. I lied again, but my voice gave me away. He mentioned Murphy's Diner and the lake. I denied it, but the way he looked at me said he knew the truth. "Yellow dress," he whispered as I left. "You always looked beautiful in yellow." I didn't sleep. My heart wouldn't let me. By morning I'd made my decision. No more pretending. I found him in the conservatory, sunlight catching the silver in his hair. I served his coffee, our eyes meeting. "Did you sleep well?" he asked. "No," I answered. "Did you?" "No," he said. I kept thinking about cherry coke and yellow dresses. My breath caught. "The cherry coke was too sweet," I said. "You always told me to get vanilla." In that moment, the past and present collided. There was no denying it anymore. He remembered. And so did I. He looked at me, stunned, as I recounted how I'd known everything. When Harlow was born, when they moved into the Maple Street house, when Dante got promoted, and even when he got sick. For 48 years he'd watched from afar, never interfering, just needing to know I was okay. Then, with shaking hands, he pulled a small velvet box from his jacket. He'd always hoped fate might someday bring us back together. Inside was the silver ring I'd returned to him the day before marrying Dante, unable to wear one man's promise while pledging myself to another. "You kept it," I whispered. He nodded. He kept everything. Every photo, every letter, every memory. "I never married Hilda," he confessed. "Business was just an excuse. The truth was simpler. No one else was me." His words hit hard, the weight of 48 years of silence and solitude. "Terry," I said, struggling to speak, "how do you apologize for a separation neither of us chose?" "You made the right choice," he said gently. "Dante loved you the way you deserved, and he was there when I couldn't be. I've made my peace with that." "But had he really?" I asked. The man I'd been working for didn't seem at peace. His jaw tightened. The accident had changed him. 5 years ago, he still dreamed of a second chance. But after waking in a hospital paralyzed, he saw how foolish he'd been. "What could I offer you now?" he asked. I stood abruptly, angered. "Stop. Do you think I'm that shallow? That your legs matter more than your heart?" He looked stunned. "I loved you, Terry," I said, tears in my eyes. "Not your fortune or your future plans. I loved the boy who brought me wildflowers, who held me through tears, who believed in dreams." The emotion spilled from me like a dam breaking. "If that boy's still in there, the rest is just detail." He reached for my hand, older, thinner now, but the spark was still there. "He's still here," he said quietly. "Buried, but here. The question is, what now?" I looked around the elegant conservatory, then back at him. "Are you happy, Terry? Truly?" He was silent for a while before admitting the truth. He had success, respect, more money than he could ever spend. But happiness? That vanished the day he left me at that train platform. "Then maybe," I said, "it's time we stop punishing ourselves for the choices we made when we were different people." He kissed my hand. "Would you try, not as my nurse, but as whatever we could be to each other?" I thought of Harlow, the cold house I'd been forced out of, the solitude I'd expected. But this man had loved me, even from afar, for nearly 5 decades. "Yes," I whispered. But I knew the road ahead wouldn't be smooth. Harlow wouldn't approve. She never liked sharing attention. Just the thought of her reaction twisted my stomach. Still, for the first time in weeks, I felt hope. Maybe it wasn't too late for second chances. 3 weeks later, Terry asked me to move into the master wing. Not as staff, but as his companion. The word felt strange, more intimate than employee. Yet less binding than what we'd once dreamed of. "You don't have to decide now," he said at dinner. "But I want you to know this isn't about loneliness. It's the life I should have been living. I set my fork down. Terry, I need to tell you something about Harlow. She doesn't know who you are. When she found this job for me, all she saw was a wealthy man who needed care, and a mother to get out of the house. Terry nodded. And you think she'll have a problem with this? I laughed without humor. She threw me out 3 weeks after her father's funeral. She only cares about 2 things: her comfort and other people's money. When she finds out I'm living here as more than hired help, she'll assume I'm after your inheritance. Are you? He asked quietly. I was shocked. How can you ask me that? He looked pained. Because 48 years is a long time. People change. And wealth. It makes people see me differently. Hurt I stood. If that's what you think, maybe this was a mistake. Please sit, he said gently. I had to ask. I've been burned before. Arms crossed, I demanded. Say what? That I don't want your money. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. You should know that. He nodded. I do. But when you have this much, you question everyone. My anger faded. Is that really how you've lived? Pretty much, he admitted. It's lonely but safer. I sat studying his face. Success had made him suspicious, cautious. For the record, I don't want your money. Leave it to charity if you want. I have Social Security and a small pension. I've lived on less. He relaxed visibly. I'm sorry I had to ask. Just don't ask again, I replied. We returned to dinner. Now about Harlow. She'll cause trouble. His expression hardened. What kind of trouble? She'll question my intentions, maybe even sue, try to have me removed. Let her, he said firmly. This is my house. No one tells me who I can live with. I wished I shared his confidence. Harlow could be ruthless. Just then my phone rang, her name flashing on screen. Speak of the devil, I muttered. Answer it, Terry said. Let's get it over with. Harlow, I greeted. Her voice was tight. I had an interesting chat with Mrs. Patterson. She saw you at the store with some man in a wheelchair. You two seemed cozy. I sighed. Of course someone had seen us. Terry had insisted on buying ingredients for a cake I missed from childhood. To a stranger, it probably did look intimate. His name is Terrence Hawthorne. He's the man I work for. Work for or work on? She sneered. Because you looked awfully close for a professional relationship. Terry motioned for the phone. I shook my head. Harlow, I'm 68. I can conduct myself appropriately. Are you sleeping with him? She snapped. That's none of your business. It is if you're embarrassing the family. Daddy's not even cold in the ground. Rage surged. How dare you? I grieved properly. But I'm still alive. I'm allowed companionship. Companionship, she laughed. Is that what gold digging is called now? Terry was pale with anger. This time I handed him the phone. Miss Thompson, he said icily. This is Terrence Hawthorne. Your mother isn't a gold digger. She's not embarrassing anyone. And if anyone's doing the pursuing, it's me. Sir, there must be some misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding is you thinking you have any say in your mother's life. She's strong and clear-headed. That you can't see it says more about you than her. Harlow fell silent. Then her tone changed, calculated. I'd like to meet with you, Mr. Hawthorne. Terry looked at me. I nodded. Better to face it. Tomorrow 2 o'clock, he said. She hung up without a goodbye. She's going to try to turn you against me, I warned. Let her try, he said. I didn't build this empire by being easily manipulated. I smiled sadly. She can be convincing. And I can be stubborn, he replied. The only thing that scares me is losing you again. That night I lay awake dreading the confrontation. Harlow would be ready, with accusations, insinuations, painting me as a desperate widow. But I clung to Terry's words. The only thing that scares him is losing me. Harlow arrived at 2 o'clock sharp, dressed for battle in her best black suit. From the window, I saw her check her reflection, square her shoulders. Terry had chosen his study for the meeting. If she wants a negotiation, we meet on her terms, he'd said. Harlow entered, took in the opulence, and sat across from Terry, all polished charm. But I saw the tension. I'm only here out of concern, she began sweetly. She's grieving and might not be making the best decisions. What decisions? Terry asked. This living arrangement, for one. It's unusual for a caregiver to move into personal quarters. What kind of questions does that raise? He asked evenly. Boundaries. Professional conduct, Harlow pressed. She's vulnerable and financially insecure. She might confuse gratitude with other feelings. I flushed. Harlow, that's enough. It's okay, Terry said. I want to hear this. She turned back to him, emboldened. My mother's always been impressionable. She sees the best in people. She might not see the implications. Such as a widow moving in with a rich man. It doesn't look good. And when this ends, what happens? Will she be left with nothing again? Terry leaned back. Interesting points. What do you think would be best for your mother? Harlow's eyes lit up, believing she had found an opportunity. She should come back home, she said, to her family where she can mourn and think clearly about her future. By home? Terry asked. You mean the house you inherited from your father? The same house you asked her to leave. Harlow's discomfort showed. That was a misunderstanding. I was grieving too. Of course, she's always welcome in my home. For how long? Terry asked quietly. Until she becomes a burden again? Until you need more space. At that, Harlow's polished demeanor slipped, a hint of calculation showing through. Mr. Hawthorne, family relationships are complicated. I understand perfectly, Terry said, voice sharp. You kicked your mother out 3 weeks after burying her husband of 45 years. Gave her a choice, work or be homeless. And now you're here because she might have found something better than what you offered. Flushing, Harlow stammered. That's not. I was trying to protect her. Teach her independence. By making her homeless? Terry asked. She had options. Harlow insisted, glancing frantically between us. She could have gotten an apartment. With $800 in Social Security? Terry said. Rent in this area averages $1,200. That's a $400 gap, not including food, utilities, medicine. She could have found something cheaper. Where? What part of town were you willing to let your 68-year-old mother live in poverty, just so you wouldn't be inconvenienced? Watching this, I felt both satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction that Harlow was finally being held accountable, but sadness that it had to come from a stranger. Harlow's composure continued to crack. You don't understand. My mother's always been high maintenance. She expects everyone to care for her. I worked 2 jobs to put you through college, I said, unable to stay silent. Cared for your father through 5 years of cancer without complaint. I babysit your kids every weekend, and all I ever asked for was a place to grieve. You were smothering me. Harlow snapped. Always hovering, always helping, always making me feel guilty. So you threw me out, I said softly. I gave you a chance to stand on your own. Silence fell. Terry looked at Harlow with icy disgust. Miss Thompson, he said, I think we're done here. Wait, Harlow said desperately. You don't know what you're getting into. She'll want marriage, security, legal protections. And what if she does? Terry replied. What if I want to give her those things? Harlow froze. What are you saying? That we're both adults, capable of choosing our relationship's future. He pulled out a velvet box, the silver ring from our youth. Your mother and I have a history long before your father, before you. We loved each other deeply. Life pulled us apart, but it didn't erase what we felt. You're talking about marriage, Harlow said flatly. I'm talking about the life we should have had, Terry answered. Harlow turned to me furious. This is why you took the job. You knew he was here. No, I said firmly. I thought he was gone, dead, married, living elsewhere. I never imagined I'd find him here. You call him Terry? Harlow sneered. That's my name, Terry said calmly. Terrence is for business. Terry is for those I love. Harlow shot up, chair scraping the floor. This is madness. You think you can pick up after 48 years? Erase everything. We're not erasing, I said. We're building something new. What about Dad? Your family. Your father was a good man and I loved him. But Terry was my first love. Some things don't end. Harlow's panic deepened. He's using you. He's lonely, disabled. When he's done, you'll be alone again. That's enough. Terry's voice cracked like a whip. Don't speak of your mother that way in my house. Your house. Harlow laughed bitterly. Let's talk about your house, your money. This is about power, isn't it? Terry opened a drawer, pulling out a legal document. Since money concerns you, you should know everything I own is going to charity. Your mother won't inherit a cent. You what? Harlow whispered, face pale. I told him to, I said gently. I never wanted his money. I want him. Something broke in Harlow's expression, a collapse like a child in pain, but it quickly hardened again. Fine, she said icily. Throw your life away on a fantasy. But don't expect me to pick up the pieces. She turned to leave, hand on the door. And don't come crying when it all falls apart. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Terry and I sat in silence, listening to her drive away. He reached for my hand. Are you all right? I tested the feeling inside like pressing on an old bruise. Was I okay? My daughter had just cast me out. And yet, for the first time in years, I felt free. Yes, I said, surprised at how steady I sounded. I think I am. 6 months later, I stood in the conservatory where our past had resurfaced, now wearing a simple gold band. No diamonds, just something real. Terry and I had married quietly, just Patricia and his lawyer present. Not the grand wedding of my youth, but perfect for who we had become. 2 people reclaiming lost time. Mrs. Hawthorne, Patricia said, stepping in, hiding a smile. There's someone at the front door asking for you. My heart clenched. Ever since the wedding announcement, I'd been waiting for this. Harlow had been silent since that confrontation. But in a small town, news always travels. Who is it? I asked. Though I was already familiar with her. Your daughter seemed visibly distressed. I found Terry in his study, going through the quarterly reports for his charitable foundation. He looked up, immediately sensing something was wrong. She's here, I told him. Terry set down his papers and turned his chair to face me. Do you want me to handle this? He asked. No, she's my daughter. This is my conversation to have. I smoothed my skirt, trying to steady my nerves. But I'd like you there if you don't mind. Of course, he replied. We found Harlow in the formal living room, sitting on the edge of a velvet settee as though ready to flee. She looked thinner, worn down, and older than when I'd last seen her. Her eyes were ringed with fatigue that even makeup couldn't disguise. Something in me softened. Harlow, I said in a neutral tone. Mom, she replied, arms crossed protectively. Congratulations on your marriage. I heard it was beautiful. It was, I responded as I sat across from her, with Terry rolling up beside me. Simple but beautiful. Harlow's gaze dropped to our intertwined hands, the matching gold bands. You actually did it. You married him. I did, I said. For better or worse, richer or poorer, in sickness and in health. Her voice sharpened. All of it, I answered firmly. Harlow let out a laugh that ended in a choked sob. The worst part is I thought you'd come back. That you'd realize what you gave up. But you didn't. This is my home now. With him." Her eyes flared with resentment. "With a man you hardly know. I know him better than you realize. More importantly, I know myself better than I did 6 months ago." She fell quiet, studying the rug under her feet. When she looked up, her eyes brimmed with tears. "I've been thinking about what you said about Dad, about first loves never truly ending. I went through his papers after you left. I found letters." My breath caught. "What kind of letters?" "Love letters. To someone named Jennifer. Dated 2 years before he died." Her voice dropped. "He was having an affair, Mom. For at least 2 years. The revelation hit me like a punch. Dante, faithful, dependable Dante, had betrayed me. While I cared for him through his illness, while I held his hand during chemotherapy, he had written love letters to someone else." Terry tightened his grip on my hand, anchoring me. "I'm sorry," Harlow said, "but I thought you should know. Maybe your marriage wasn't as perfect as I believed." I closed my eyes, processing the betrayal. I should have felt shattered, but instead I felt relieved. "Thank you for telling me," I said. Harlow blinked in surprise. "You're not angry?" "Sad, yes. Disappointed. But not angry. Your father was a good man who made poor choices. It doesn't erase the good years we had, but it does give me perspective." "What kind of perspective?" "That I don't owe my entire life to his memory. I don't have to feel guilty for being happy again." Now she was crying openly. "I was so jealous of you. So angry that you could move on and find happiness. I couldn't understand how you could forget Daddy." "I didn't forget him," I said softly. "I never will. But I couldn't stay frozen in grief. I made it worse by throwing you out," Harlow admitted. "I was angry about the affair, and I took it out on you. I blamed you for not being enough to keep him faithful, and then for being too much when you needed someone." Suddenly everything about her behavior made sense. The coldness after the funeral, the ultimatums, the need for control. She wasn't just reacting to my grief, she was drowning in her own. "Oh, sweetheart," I said, moving to sit beside her. "You should have told me." "How could I? How do you tell your mother her perfect husband cheated? That her marriage was a lie?" "It wasn't all a lie," I said gently. "The early years, the love, they were real. And you were real. The best thing that came from that marriage." Harlow leaned against me, and for the first time in months, she felt like my daughter again. "I've been awful to you," she whispered. "You've been hurting. That's different. Can you forgive me?" I glanced at Terry, who gave a small, supportive nod. "I forgive you. But things can't go back to how they were. I've changed and so have you." "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means that if you want to be part of my life, you need to accept my choices, my marriage, my happiness. And if you can't, we'll love each other from afar. I won't let anyone, not even you, shame me for the life I've built." She was silent, then turned to Terry. "I owe you an apology too. I said horrible things about you and your relationship with my mom. I was wrong." Terry inclined his head. "Grief makes us say things we don't mean." "Do you really love her?" she asked. "With everything I have," he answered without pause. "I've loved her for 48 years. Finding her again is the greatest gift I've ever received." Harlow studied us, her expression slowly softening. "I can see it, the way you look at each other. Like no one else exists." "Sometimes it feels that way," I admitted. She hesitated, then asked, "Are you happy?" "Truly happy." I thought of our quiet mornings, Terry's small gestures, the peaceful nights. "Yes, I'm happy." She nodded and stood. "Then I want to try. I want to be part of your life. I want to get to know Terry as your husband, not just your old boss. I want to make up for lost time." I stood and hugged her. A real embrace for the first time since Dante's funeral. "I'd like that very much." As she pulled back, Harlow looked around the room. This is really your home now. It is. And you're really Mrs. Hawthorne? I am. She smiled, truly smiled for the first time in over a year. It'll take some getting used to, but Mom, you deserve this. You deserve to be loved. After she left, promising to call soon and asking to introduce her kids to their new step-grandfather, Terry and I sat in the garden watching the sunset. Do you think she meant it? I asked. I think she's her mother's daughter, he said. Stronger and more forgiving than she knows. I leaned back, letting go of the last tension I'd carried. For the first time in years, everything seemed to be falling into place. Thank you, I said, for not giving up on us. He kissed my hand gently. Thank you for giving an old love a second chance. For seeing past the wheelchair and the walls I'd built. We're quite a pair, aren't we? I smiled. Two people in their 70s starting over. The best kind, Terry replied. We know how precious love is, and not to waste it. As the stars appeared, I thought about the journey here, the pain, the loss, the fear. But sometimes you have to lose everything to find what matters most. And sometimes, love you thought was lost forever has just been waiting for you to come home.